Hey, what's up guys, it's BenBonk, and around a month and a half ago, I released my indie game, Slimekeep. Which, if you somehow don't know, Slimekeep is a top-down action roguelike where you must kill and capture slimes to stop the corruption that has infected your land. Anyways, in this video, I wanted to break down everything regarding Slimekeep's launch, from my marketing strategy to the game's reception, and of course, how much money I made from launch, because at the end of the day, that's probably what you're here for. So if you're just curious about the numbers, you can skip to this timestamp on screen, or check out all the timestamps in the description. However, I'd really recommend watching from the start to fully understand all the context, as I personally think it's really interesting. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. Building up to launch, I slowly started to shift a lot of my time towards marketing Slimekeep instead of working on the game itself. Now obviously, my biggest marketing tool I had going for me was this YouTube channel you see right now. As you may know, I've been making devlogs on the game's development for the past 5 years, and I'm super grateful to have an audience of you guys who've enjoyed watching the process of me making the game. Now, this was awesome, but I also wanted to market the game in other ways, and ideally have people play the game who have never heard of me or my YouTube channel. So a few months before launch, I spent a ton of hours watching marketing GDC talks, reading blog posts, and developing a $0 budget marketing plan that would hopefully work. Mainly, I gathered a massive list of YouTubers and streamers who played similar games to mine in the hope that they would feature the game on their channel. I did this by using tools like SolelyGnome to find Twitch streamers, and just plain YouTube searches to find YouTubers by searching things like roguelike Let's Play or insert game here similar to mine, Let's Play. After a few months or so, doing a little bit each day, I had the emails of about 250 YouTubers and streamers. And this list was pretty curated in my opinion. I did my best to find streamers and YouTubers who actually seemed like they might enjoy my game. For example, I didn't want to send Slimekeep to an inactive channel or a channel that covers very different types of games. As for actually reaching out to these influencers, I read a few blog success stories from other games on how they did things in order to hopefully catch the eye of at least a few big YouTubers. I knew this would be very difficult and I probably would have a low success rate, but I also knew it would just take 1 or 2 big YouTubers to make a video on Slimekeep and have their influence cascade down the chain. After many iterations, I drafted up this email template to send out. I started with the Slimekeep logo to hopefully catch people's eyes and introduce myself in the game. I then mentioned how I thought my game might be up the influencer's alley, and for many YouTubers I also included a personal note here as I generally do or did watch many of the creators that I reached out to. I then gave a brief description of the game, a link to the trailer, a free Steam key, a GIF of some of the general gameplay, and finally some other logistical info. I'm not sure if this is the most ideal email template. I'm no master at this, but I just want to be open and share my process, as I think it's cool to see how this kind of stuff works behind the scenes as a game dev. Anyways, with this strategy ready to go, I started emailing these content creators around 2.5 weeks before launch, sending around 20 emails a day, 10 in the morning and 10 in the evening, as I was really cautious about potentially triggering Gmail spam triggers and didn't want to take any risks. If you're curious, these were the subject lines I switched between using to add some variation to each email and hopefully catch the reader's attention. I also emailed around 10 keys to game journalists who had covered similar games in the past and made a press release on gamespress.com, which I'm not sure if that did anything. Finally, I made a few Reddit posts on popular subreddits and used this tool called Curator Connect on Steam, which I didn't know existed but figured it wouldn't hurt. Now, as for how many YouTubers played the game on their channel, how many upvotes my Reddit posts got, and how many press outlets covered the game, I'll get into that in just a second, but for now, let's talk about launch day. I was honestly expecting the launch day for Slimekeep to be one of the craziest days of my life, and while it was pretty hectic, it was also kinda chill. I woke up, fixed some last minute bugs, and then just pressed the release button on the game. For the next few hours, I did all of my day of promotion stuff, such as releasing the recap devlog on this channel, making my Reddit posts, and constantly interacting with my Discord to make sure there were no game-breaking issues. And overall, while there definitely were some soft locks and bugs that needed to be fixed, there were way less than I expected, so I was pretty happy overall, and the game seemed pretty playable, at least from what I could tell. One concern though was that the game was a bit easy apparently. I don't know, this is something that I've tried to consider for a while now, as I know for some players this will be their first roguelike, and for others this will be their 100th roguelike. But it did seem that I had things a bit too easy at launch, as some people were literally beating the game on their first run, which was not my intention whatsoever. So I spent the next few days making some very necessary tweaks to get the game's difficulty and risk reward system to where I wanted it to be. But in general, besides a few small hiccups, it was a pretty solid launch day, and I felt optimistic for the game. Currently, Slimekeep has a 94% positive review score on Steam out of 84 reviews, which don't include copies given to my playtesters and contributors, which total to a bit over 100. This is genuinely way higher and better than I expected, so I'm really glad most people seem to enjoy the game. There were so many positive reviews that really did make my day and make the whole process feel worth it. That being said, I don't know how biased many of these reviews were because of people had seen my videos, and there still was plenty of fair criticism. As expected, some people had issues with the game's lack of controller support, bright color palette, and some of the design choices, which was totally fair. Also, a lot of the people who left negative reviews only played the game for like 30 minutes on average. Like, what? You can't judge a game and leave a review after playing it for only 30 minutes, but I don't know, I digress. Anyways, when creating the game, I knew it wouldn't be for everyone, as at the end of the day, it's a passion project for me, and it's something that I would want to play myself. So I totally understand it when people say that the game isn't their cup of tea. I was just really happy to see that the game did seem to find an audience that genuinely seemed to enjoy it and look forward to the future. Alright, it's the moment you've all been waiting for, so let's get into it. As of making this video, Slimekeep has sold 1,751 copies on Steam. Now, your logical conclusion to this number might be to simply multiply it by $15, which is the price of Slimekeep on Steam, and hey, I've just made over $25,000. But this isn't the full story, so let me break things down a bit. Firstly, not everyone who bought the game kept it in their library. Around 17% of Slimekeep game copies were refunded. This kinda sucked, but from reading about this, it seems typical for games on Steam to have 10 to 20% of copies refunded, and it's just a price you have to pay. Next up, you have to consider that the game launched at a 20% discount, making it $12 instead of $15. And since the majority of game sales occurred during this sale, there goes around another 15% of our revenue. Then we also have to consider that not everyone who bought the game paid the full price in US dollars. Steam auto-converts currencies for your game, so for example, someone in Brazil doesn't have to pay a full 2 days of labor just to be able to buy Slimekeep. So there goes another 5-ish% of our revenue. I also have to pay VAT, or value-added tax, which from my research seems to be roughly another 9-ish%, so yeah, this number is starting to look a bit less impressive. And well, all of this doesn't even include Steam's 30% cut. Then the final thing to consider is that Slimekeep wasn't entirely free for me to make. I had to pay my composers, pay for some art and game assets, pay for some legal stuff, and just a bunch of other random expenses. I don't have an exact number on this, but I'd estimate it to be somewhere around $6,000 to $7,000 total of game-related expenses over the course of the past 5 years. So you can do the math on things and realize that, yeah, it's safe to say that I am by no means a millionaire because of Slimekeep. Now shifting gears, let's talk about the results from my mini marketing campaign. Firstly, something that I didn't really consider all too much was Steam's promotion that they do for you in the days/weeks leading up to your game's launch. Around a week before launch, I had roughly 17,000 wish lists for the game. However, since Slimekeep was launching on a Monday, I was lucky enough to get number 2 on Steam's popular coming page for pretty much all of Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This led to around 2 million Steam-provided impressions, 56,000 visits to the Slimekeep Steam page, and 4,000 new wishlists, meaning the game launched with about 21,000 wishlists. Anyways, as for me emailing content creators, I ended up sending out 237 emails. Out of these 237 emails, 30 content creators actually claimed the game on their Steam account. Then out of these 30 content creators, 9 of them created content on the game in some way through either a Twitch stream or YouTube video. These videos and streams combined got around 25,000 total views, and I should also mention that my launch day recap devlog received 75,000 views. Overall, it was super cool to actually see people play and enjoy my game on their channel, but I also won't lie, I was still a little disappointed as I was really hoping for at least one big YouTuber to cover the game. Unfortunately, this just didn't really end up happening, so oh well. Though it was still super cool to see all these smaller and mid-sized creators create content on their game, and I really enjoyed watching so many of their playthroughs. Also, I guess it's never too late, so Slimesicle and so many of you other guys, if you see this, please make a video on the game. I know you claimed the key, and I think you'd really enjoy it. And if you guys know any other roguelike or indie game YouTubers, please do consider asking them to play the game. That would just help me out a ton, and there's probably a good chance I already sent them a key in their email, but we'll just have to see how things go in the future. Anyways, emailing content creators wasn't the only bit of marketing I did. I ended up creating 3 Reddit posts, which together got around 500 upvotes. I doubt this really did much, and I intended to post more, but many of my posts kept getting deleted. I don't know, I thought I read each subreddit's rules, but oh well. I also sent keys to 66 curators through Steam's Curator Connect program, in which 6 curators actually reviewed the game, so there's that, but I also doubt this did much. As for emailing the press, out of the 10 emails I sent, one outlet, being rogueliker.com, covered the game. This was honestly even more than I expected, so that's pretty cool. So was Slimekeep's launch a success? Well, I'd have to say yes and no, but mostly yes. The game had a generally very positive reception, and I learned so much from working on the game. Although financially, it's hard for me to classify Slimekeep as a quote-unquote success, as with its current revenue, I was likely making 10 to 20 cents an hour, pouring my heart and soul into the game over the past 5 years. And if I'm being honest, money is something that's really hard for me to talk about with game dev. When talking to someone for the first time and telling them about my game, almost every single time one of the first questions I get is, how much money did you make? As if it is the ultimate indicator of the success of a project. On one hand, I don't really care about making money from my games that much. The goal of making a bunch of money was never consideration when starting off on this project 5 years ago. I wanted to make a game that I was happy with myself and that others could enjoy, as game development does feel like creating art to me, and it is a really fun hobby. But at the same time, I won't lie. I'm human, and I think it would be super cool to make money from my games. Not so I could go spend it all on lavish things, but more so that I could have financial freedom for my future. I always had those thoughts in the back of my head, like maybe this game will make me a millionaire, even if I knew that was super unrealistic and only happens to the top 1% of the top 1% of game developers. But hey, those are what you always hear about in the media and all these crazy success stories, which I fear can lead newer developers to have unrealistic expectations, so that's a big reason why I made this video. At the end of the day, I'm really happy with the game I created, even if the profit was a little less than ideal. I guess I just thought my YouTube channel might have a bigger influence than it actually ended up having, and so that, with everything else, has been a huge learning experience for me to use in my future games. And genuinely, just reading all the positive comments and hearing people talk about how they enjoyed the game more than made up for any financial disappointment I could have ever had. Plus, it's not like this is the end of Slimekeep. I still plan to release updates this summer, and the game currently stands at 26,000 wishlists. So maybe we'll get some more conversions when the game goes on sale again, or if a big content creator randomly decides to cover the game. So that's everything you might be curious about regarding Slimekeep's launch. If you thought my story was interesting, go buy Slimekeep, or at least consider giving it a wishlist, as either would help me out a ton. Anyways, thanks as always for watching, thank you to everyone who has purchased and played the game so far, I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.